WTIM.
Welcome in to the WTIM information station. My name is Tim Zalabak, bringing you your WTIM morning show. This time with me, it is going to be Jack Myers from the Social Security Administration. He is the Public Affairs Specialist. Thank you so much to our live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust, and Landmark of Taylorville. So now we are here with Jack Myers. Jack, do we have you?
Yes, you do, Tim. Good morning.
Beautiful. You sound great on our end. Good morning to you. How's everything going?
Oh, it's going pretty well here. How about you?
You know, it's going pretty well. Another day in the WTIM information station. It's great. So, Mr. Myers, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration. This is an important topic for the local community, and get us started with the big things to know regarding your personal information and how to stay safe out there.
Yeah, Tim, unfortunately, identity theft affects millions of people each year and can really be a serious issue. It can cause a lot of financial damage and stress for people. And so there are always different things that we talk about with regard to avoiding scams, being alert for that sort of thing. But then there are also just kind of certain things you can do as an individual to start protecting yourself now from the risk of identity theft. And so I kind of have a top 10 for you, if you will, here this morning of things to do. And number one on that list would be to protect your social security number by keeping your card in a safe place. There's really no reason for you to be carrying that around with you on a daily basis or providing that number unnecessarily. So just make sure you're doing what you can to keep that card and number safe. Sometimes people will ask you for it when they don't really need it. So be sure to ask if it's required and if they're, going to be able to conduct business with you if you don't provide it, because you might be surprised a lot of times they can. There are certain times that you're going to have to give it up, if you're starting a new job, of course, or if you're opening a bank account, things like that. But a lot of times when they ask for it, they don't really need it. So don't be afraid to push back a little bit and just ask if they really need it. Another thing that comes to mind, Tim, is to be careful when the phone rings. That sounds easy enough, right? Scammers seem to be calling more and more frequently these days. And if you pick up that call, there's a chance that they might get you, because they do some pretty creative things nowadays. They can claim to be government officials, maybe make you think that there's an urgent problem. Sometimes they like to pretend they're from Social Security, and they make certain threats to try and give you this sense of urgency. They tell you that your Social Security number has been suspended, or they demand cash or gift cards or other unusual forms of payment. So we're never going to do those kinds of things. So just don't be a victim to that. If you get that kind of call, just hang up or don't answer it in the first place, because you definitely don't want to get caught up. They're pretty good at what they do. So the longer you spend on the phone with them, the more likely you are to slip up and give them something. Another thing kind of goes to all these accounts we have, and it feels like everything we do these days, we have to create an account and we need a password and we need a username. And, I think a lot of us are tempted to reuse passwords and usernames, but that's really not a good idea. What you want to do is you want to be creating strong, unique passwords, different passwords for different accounts. And the biggest reason for that, Tim, is because if one account gets compromised, you read about those things from time to time. If one account gets compromised, you don't want that password to be the same password you use all kinds of different places, because then you're vulnerable everywhere. So you can limit the damage to that one account if you only use that password, that particular place. So there's a little bit of a plug for using unique passwords, so that if something does go wrong one spot, you're not vulnerable with all of your accounts. Another thing to think about is when you're enjoying social media or you're reading articles and they have an opportunity to comment, keep your personal information out of that. Sometimes people forget that they're conversing in an online format where other people can see all of that info. So it maybe goes without saying for most people, but I've seen it from time to time where you kind of lose track of what you're doing. So just be careful not to be putting your personal information in online comments or social media there. And then the fifth one here would be your personal documents, paper documents that you throw away. Make sure you're shredding those. Anything that's got your name, birthday, social security number, don't just throw that in the trash or the recycling. Make sure you're shredding that first so that it's not susceptible to people who could dig through your recycle bins or your trash cans and get that stuff out there. Number 6 would be to take a look at your mobile device. We use these mobile devices for more and more personal business these days. So make sure you're putting some sort of password protection on there, whether it's a password or it's your fingerprint or it's a facial recognition, something like that. Just make sure you're turning that on. I know it's a little bit of a hassle to have to use that every time you get into your phone, but with all the information that's likely on your phone these days, it's important that you do that. So make sure you activate that and protect yourself that way. If you're going to try to keep track of your financial accounts, you want to do that on a regular basis. You want to check those financial accounts for any kind of suspicious transactions. That's going to be number 7. And number 8 would be to avoid internet threats by installing and maintaining some strong antivirus software on all of your devices. Also, to kind of piggyback on that one, if you're using public Wi-Fi, I would recommend that you don't do certain things like shopping or banking, anything that involves sensitive data. You might want to wait till you're on a secure Wi-Fi connection as opposed to public Wi-Fi. And then to round out our top 10 here, Tim, the last 2 would be to make sure you're activating any security settings on your social media accounts. And then if you get an email that has, or a text message that has a link that you're not expecting, it's unsolicited, be very careful before you click on any of those links. Something that I like to do is if it says it's from XYZ company and I think it might be legit, I still go out to that website myself and then find the link on the website as opposed to clicking on the one in the email, because you just never know if that's a legitimate message and a legitimate link or not.
Those are all really great tips. Now, I think about my local community here in Taylorville, and I think about some elderly people that might not be as technologically savvy. And these are really easy traps to fall into if you haven't been growing up with technology. Have you kind of found that people are falling into traps of scams and being in bad Wi-Fi areas and things that they may think are out of their control, but they can protect themselves? Have you seen that from the senior citizens?
Yeah, we unfortunately, Tim, there are a lot of scams out there, and a lot of them are the phone variety where people call and talk, and we have seen statistically where the elderly individuals have lost more money, quite a bit more money than younger individuals. But what you might be surprised by is the fact that we've seen that younger individuals fall victim to these scams pretty frequently as well. I think the biggest difference in terms of the amount of money lost is just the amount of money that they have. That's I don't mean to be flippant about that, but that's just kind of where I think the reality is that the elderly people who are victimized tend to have more to lose. And so obviously it's horrible and it's just sickening when you hear those kinds of stories. But I bring that up only so that the younger listeners keep their guard up as well. It's easy to look and think, well, that wouldn't happen to me. It might happen to my grandparents, but it wouldn't happen to me. And the truth is it could happen to you. So, just be cognizant of those types of things and be careful when that phone rings. Don't get caught up. They're very good at trying to create a panic type environment where we don't do our best decision making. That's their whole goal, is to get you scared and get you in a state of panic so that you'll give up information. And, unfortunately, they're pretty successful with it. So you just be on the lookout. And that's the number one thing you can do to safeguard yourself, is be aware of it. Talk to your kids, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, talk to everybody. So we all know and we're ready when those calls come in.
Gosh, yeah, these scams have really evolved into where they're, taking advantage of really anyone, technologically savvy or not. This has been really informative so far, Jack. Thank you so much for all this. We are going to take our first quick little break here on the WTIM Morning Show. Thank you so much to our live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville. We'll be right back here on the WTIM Information Station.
WTIM.
welcome back into the WTIM information station. My name is Tim Zalabak, bringing you the WTIM morning show. Thank you so much to our live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville. Now, we've had a great conversation so far with Jack Myers, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration, and we learned about all the great ways to stay protected. And now we're going to keep moving down. And Jack, what's next for us on today?
Well, another thing I wanted to mention today, Tim, is an expansion of outreach that we have been doing at Social Security for a program we administer called Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. So our SSI program is one that provides payments to adults who are age 65 and older, and also to younger adults and children who have disabilities. So it's either adults 65 or older, or younger adults or children with disabilities. And in order to qualify for the SSI program, you have to have limited income, limited resources. So it is a needs-based program that's going to provide income basically for the most basic necessities, food, shelter, clothing, that sort of thing. And it is a program that we administer in addition to the Social Security benefits. The program requirements are different. So if you've worked and paid into Social Security and you qualify for that benefit, great. But sometimes you may not have had that work history. You may not qualify for Social Security, and that's where the SSI program comes in. But over the past few years, we've noticed that, across the country, there's been a little bit of a drop off in the applications for the SSI program. And so our agency has made a nationwide effort just to make sure that we're talking to people and organizations and letting people know that this program exists and that you can get information about it if you go to our website, ssa.gov/SSI, or you can call us at 800-772-1213 and get additional info to see if you might qualify. I did mention it is a needs-based program, so you have to have limited assets, limited income in order to qualify. But it is something worth looking at ssa.gov/SSI to see if you might qualify if you're 65 or older, or if you're disabled, really at any age prior to 65.
So that'll be really valuable to people that fall in that weird category of not being 65 plus, but not being able to have the Social Security benefits. Now there's something for those people. That sounds great.
Yeah, yep. And it's not a new program per se, Tim. It's just that we want to make sure people are aware of it. It's been around for quite a while, but it's just kind of a renewed outreach initiative because, as I mentioned, we've noticed a drop off of the last few years, and not so much a drop off right here in the immediate community, but nationwide in different areas. Specifically, for whatever reason, certain zip codes, we've noticed a decline in applications. So we're just trying to drum up some efforts here to let people know, hey, this is out there, and if you are qualified, we want to make sure you have access.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's good to let people know, and that's been out there for a while, but it's always worth the reminder.
That's right.
Awesome. So let's keep moving down here a little bit, if you don't mind. There's some online tools to help educate some students about Social Security.
Yes, absolutely. Summer's here, and many students and teachers finally have a little bit of time away from the classroom. So hopefully, if you're a teacher, you're out on a road trip somewhere or just enjoying some free time listening to the radio today and hearing about this. Those are things that you probably don't get to do a whole lot during the week when school is in session. So one of the things to let you know is, a lot of your students will probably know someone who receives retirement or disability benefits from Social Security. It is obviously a very important federal program that touches the lives of most Americans. And we have something that might make your life a little easier if you want to try and introduce a lesson on Social Security to your students. We've got something we call an educator's toolkit that's available on our website at ssa.gov. And in that educator's toolkit, we've got some lessons. Like I said, we've got 2 different lesson plans on Social Security. One's called What is Social Security and Why is it important to me? The other's called Is Social Security just for retirement and will it be there for me? So go to ssa.gov and look for that educator's toolkit. You can use it if you're an educator, but you can also use it if you're a parent just trying to figure out a way to keep your kids busy this summer.
Totally. Another totally valuable tool there for people that, I mean, these are tough questions to ask, and not tough questions to ask, but tough questions to answer for regular folks. So these are places you can go. We got a little bit over a minute. Can you go ahead and plug those great websites and phone numbers that people can go to for all this information?
Absolutely. So our website is ssa.gov. So that's ssa.gov. Make sure you're at the .gov. And then our telephone number is 800-772-1213. So lots of great information on the website at ssa.gov. And if you can't find what you're looking for there, give us a call, 800-772-1213.
Awesome. And always remember, it's a .gov. That's an easy way to remember that it's a trusted website, right?
Absolutely. Yep. You got to look for the .gov. That way you know you're in the right spot.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Jack Myers, for coming on to the WTIM show today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's Jack Myers, the Public Affairs Specialist for the Social Security Administration. Thank you so much to our live stream sponsors, People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville. You've been listening to the WTIM Morning Show. My name is Tim Zalabak, bringing you the WTIM Morning Show today. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening. You have been listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.